A million years of human evolution had led to this, an insidious message coded in mankind's very DNA, hidden from alien eyes until one human dared to look deeper. The sterile white lights of the Zarantine research vessel, Zephyr hummed as Jacob Warren hunched over his lab station, engrossed in the swirling patterns dancing across his holoscreen. Columns of nucleotides, the fundamental building blocks of life, paraded before his weary eyes. ATCG, ATCG, the unending mantra of genetic code consumed his every waking thought. For months Jacob had pored over this peculiar recurring sequence buried deep within the human genome, an anomaly that had baffled Earth's brightest minds for generations. The Zarantine Science Council had taken notice of this enduring mystery and brought Jacob aboard, tasking him with unraveling the enigma once and for all. But time was running out. Resources dwindled as the project stretched on without a breakthrough. Whispers echoed through the gleaming corridors of the Zephyr, whispers that spoke of termination, of cutting losses, and moving on to more fruitful endeavors. The hiss of the lab door jolted Jacob from his reverie. Neso, his Zarantine supervisor, loomed in the entrance, his reptilian features cast in shadow. "We need to talk," Neso rumbled, his voice low and urgent. Jacob's heart sank. He knew what was coming, but he refused to abandon his life's work without a fight. Earth depended on him to uncover the truth behind this genetic puzzle. If he failed, humanity might never know the true purpose of their existence in the cosmos. He straightened his lab coat, ready to convince Neso to give him more time. But as he opened his mouth to argue his case, a sudden realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. The pattern, it wasn't just a random quirk of evolution. It was a message, a hidden code deliberately woven into the very fabric of human biology. And if Jacob's suspicions were correct, that message could change the course of history, not just for humanity, but for every sentient species in the galaxy. The question remained, who had left this cryptic calling card in mankind's genes, and more importantly, why? With a deep breath, Jacob turned to face Neso, a newfound determination burning in his eyes. "I think I've found something," he declared, his voice steady despite the weight of his revelation. "And trust me, you're going to want to hear this." Neso's disbelieving reptilian eyes bore into Jacob, his scaled brow furrowing. That's not possible. The Zarantine have scoured the cosmos for any trace of our creators, for millennia. And you're telling me that humans, a species still in its infancy when it comes to space exploration, have stumbled upon a message from them. Jacob, his excitement palpable, refused to be deterred by Neso's skepticism. With a few deft taps on the console, he brought up the holographic display, the ethereal blue light casting an eerie glow across the dimly lit lab. "Here, look at this sequence. It's not just a random pattern, it's a code woven into the very fabric of every human's genetic makeup. And when I run it through this decryption algorithm..." The display shifted, the nucleotide sequences morphing into a string of numbers and symbols, coordinates. Neso leaned in closer, his initial doubt slowly giving way to a mix of trepidation and cautious excitement. If this is true, Jacob, it could change everything. The council must be informed at once." But Jacob hesitated, a nagging thought worming its way into his mind. "Wait, Neso. If this message has been hidden in human DNA all this time, why hasn't anyone found it before? Why hasn't any other species discovered something similar in their own genome?" A chill crept down Jacob's spine, raising goosebumps on his skin despite the carefully regulated temperature of the lab. But hidden by whom, and for what purpose? Neso met Jacob's gaze, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "We must keep this between us for now, Jacob. If this information spreads, it could cause widespread panic, or worse, draw the attention of those who might seek to exploit it for their own gain." Jacob nodded, the weight of the situation settling heavily upon his shoulders. "I'll continue my research in secret, but we need to be ready for whatever we might find, Neso. This could change the course of human history." As Neso took his leave, Jacob turned back to the glowing display, his mind reeling with the implications of his discovery. He knew he was on the precipice of something monumental, something that could alter the very foundation of humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. But even as he dove back into his work, an unsettling sensation prickled at the back of his neck, as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. In the vast expanse of space, something ancient and powerful was stirring, and Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that he had just unwittingly set something in motion that could never be undone. Days blurred together as Jacob lost himself in his work, his mind consumed by the enigmatic message hidden within the human genome. The sterile white walls of the lab became his only companion as he pored over the data, his eyes straining against the endless lines of code. Fatigue tugged at his eyelids, but he pushed on, driven by an insatiable need to unravel the mystery that had haunted humanity for generations. With each passing hour, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The coordinates, once a jumble of meaningless numbers, now pointed to a distant, uncharted system on the fringes of Zarantine space, a system that had never been explored, its secrets concealed by the vast emptiness of the cosmos. Heart pounding with anticipation, Jacob prepared to share his groundbreaking discovery with Neso, but before he could even rise from his chair, the Zephyr shuddered violently, as if gripped by an invisible hand. Explosions rocked the ship, sending Jacob tumbling to the floor. The once pristine white lights flickered and died, replaced by the pulsing red glow of emergency illumination. Alarm screamed through the corridors as Jacob stumbled to his feet, disoriented and afraid. He raced towards the bridge, his mind reeling with questions and fears. What could have caused such damage? Were they under attack? As he burst onto the bridge, he found Neso and the rest of the crew in a state of utter panic. Their faces were ashen, their eyes wide with terror as they stared at the view screen. Jacob followed their gaze, his breath catching in his throat as he beheld the sight before him. Her colossal vessel, its hull as black as the void itself, loomed over the Zephyr, like a predator eyeing its prey. It dwarfed their ship, making them feel insignificant and powerless in its presence. "They came out of nowhere," Neso whispered, his voice trembling with a fear Jacob had never heard before. "They're not responding to our hails." Jacob's mind raced, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place with a sickening realization. Could they be our creators? Have they come for us? Before anyone could respond, a voice filled the bridge, a voice that seemed to resonate from the very fabric of space itself. It was deep, ancient, and filled with a power that made Jacob's skin crawl. "You have something that belongs to us." Jacob and Neso exchanged a look of pure, unadulterated terror. In that moment, they both knew that they had stumbled upon something far greater and more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The alien vessel began to scan the Zephyr, an intense beam of energy probing every inch of the ship. Consoles sparked and screens flickered as the ship's systems were overwhelmed by the intrusive scan. Jacob felt a searing pain in his head, as if the beam was tearing through his very thoughts. He collapsed to the floor, clutching his skull in agony. Neso rushed to his side but recoiled in horror as Jacob's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. When he spoke, his voice was not his own. It was the voice of something ancient, something that had been waiting for this moment since the dawn of time. "The message has been received. The awakening has begun." As abruptly as it had begun, the scan ceased. The alien vessel vanished into the depths of space, leaving the crew of the Zephyr reeling and Jacob unconscious on the cold, hard floor. Neso stood there, his legs trembling, his mind struggling to comprehend what had just transpired. He looked down at Jacob's motionless form, a sense of dread settling in the pit of his stomach. They had unleashed something that had been hidden within the human genome for a reason, and now there was no turning back. The Zephyr drifted in the darkness of space, its crew shaken to their very core. They had sought answers, but instead, beeps and hums filled the sterile air of the Zephyr's medical bay as Jacob lay motionless on the examination table, his chest rising and falling with slow, even breaths. Wires snaked from his body to the various monitors that kept a vigilant watch over his vital signs. Nesso stood at the foot of the bed, his reptilian eyes fixed on Jacob's unconscious form, his mind reeling from the events that had just transpired. The image of Jacob's glowing eyes and the haunting words that had spilled from his lips played over and over in Nesso's mind. The awakening has begun. The phrase echoed in his thoughts, a chilling reminder of the profound discovery they had stumbled upon. Nesso knew he couldn't ignore the implications of Jacob's transformation, nor could he shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of something far greater than they had ever imagined. With a heavy heart, Nesso turned away from Jacob and made his way to the ship's archives, determined to uncover any information that might shed light on their situation. His claws clicked against the smooth, metallic floor as he navigated the dimly lit corridors, his mind consumed by the weight of the task before him. The archives were a labyrinth of data, a vast repository of Zarantine knowledge spanning centuries. Nesso's eyes scanned the holographic displays, searching for any mention of the creators or the cryptic message hidden within human DNA. Hours passed as he combed through the seemingly endless sea of information, his frustration mounting with each dead end. Just as he was about to give up, a flicker of hope caught his eye. Buried deep within the archives, hidden behind layers of encryption, was a file that bore the mark of the highest level of classification. Nesso's heart raced as he entered his security clearance, his claws trembling slightly as he waited for the file to decrypt. What he found within the file's contents left him speechless. The Zarantine had known about the message in human DNA for decades, carefully monitoring humanity from the shadows, watching for any signs of the prophesied awakening. Nesso's eyes widened as he read through the accounts of other incidents like Jacob's, stretching back centuries. In each case, a human exposed to the alien technology had undergone a terrifying transformation, their minds and bodies altered in ways that defied explanation. Nesso's stomach churned as he realized the magnitude of the deception. The Zarantine leadership had been suppressing this information, keeping it hidden from the general population and even from those like himself who were tasked with unraveling the mystery. They feared the power that humans could wield if they fully understood their potential, the latent abilities that lay dormant within their genetic code. A sudden chime from his communicator jolted Nesso from his thoughts. It was a summons from the medical bay. Jacob had awakened. Nesso's heart pounded as he raced through the corridors, his mind reeling with the implications of his discovery and the uncertainty of what he would find when he reached Jacob's bedside. As he burst into the medical bay, Nesso froze in his tracks. Jacob was sitting upright, his eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. When he spoke, his voice echoed with a power that sent chills down Nesso's spine, a voice that seemed to carry the weight of ancient wisdom. "The awakening cannot be stopped," Jacob said, his words measured and heavy with significance. "The creators are coming, and humanity must be ready." Nesso stared into Jacob's glowing eyes, a sense of both awe and terror washing over him. In that moment, he knew that the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The secrets that had been buried for so long were finally coming to light, and Nesso realized that he had a choice to make. He could either stand with Jacob and face the coming storm head-on, or he could ally himself with the Zarantine leadership and work to suppress the truth. As he stood there, frozen in the face of this monumental decision, Nesso knew that the path he chose would not only determine his own fate, but the fate of countless others. The weight of the galaxy rested on his shoulders, and he could feel the eyes of history upon him, waiting to see which way the scales would tip. Jacob's glowing eyes bore into Nesso's soul, a silent challenge, a call to action that could not be ignored. In that moment, Nesso knew that he had to act, that he had to find a way to navigate the treacherous waters that lay ahead. But even as he steeled himself for the trials to come, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were all pawns in a game far greater than any of them could imagine, a cosmic chess match played out across the stars. The medical bay seemed to fade away as Nesso lost himself in thought, the weight of his newfound knowledge pressing down upon him like a physical force. He knew that he couldn't keep this information to himself, that he had to find a way to bring it to the attention of the Zarantine Council, to force them to confront the truth that they had worked so hard to bury. But even as he formulated his plan, Neso couldn't shake the sense of foreboding that clung to him like a second skin. There were forces at work here that he didn't fully understand, ancient powers that had been set in motion long before he or Jacob had ever been born. And now, as the gears of fate began to turn, Neso knew that they were all being swept up in a current far stronger than any of them could hope to control. The air in the medical bay seemed to crackle with tension as Neso and Jacob stared at each other, two beings caught in the crosshairs of destiny. And as the seconds ticked by, Neso could feel the weight of the galaxy. The air in the medical bay crackled with tension as Neso made a decision that would change the course of history. He knew that Jacob, with his glowing eyes and ancient wisdom, was no longer safe among the Zarantine. The transformed human had become a beacon of fear and mistrust, a symbol of the power that lay dormant within humanity's genetic code. With a heavy heart, Neso arranged for Jacob to be transported off the Zephyr and back to Earth, the planet of his birth. The journey would be long and perilous, but it was the only way to ensure Jacob's safety. As Jacob was placed into the stasis pod, his body still and lifeless, he whispered a cryptic message to Neso. "Find the others," Jacob said, his voice barely audible over the hum of the machinery. "Bring them together. Only then can we face what is to come." Neso nodded, his mind racing with the implications of Jacob's words. He knew that he couldn't ignore the truth any longer, that he had to uncover the secrets that had been buried for so long. As the stasis pod sealed shut, Neso turned his attention to the encrypted files he had discovered in the Zarantine archives. Armed with this knowledge, he set out on a clandestine mission to uncover the truth behind the creators and the message hidden within human DNA. Neso's journey took him to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, to ancient ruins and lost civilizations that held the key to understanding the impending awakening. He pored over crumbling texts and deciphered long-forgotten languages, piecing together the fragments of a puzzle that had been hidden for millennia. Along the way, Neso encountered other humans who had undergone transformations similar to Jacob's. Each of them possessed a unique ability, a fragment of the power bestowed upon them by the creators. Some could move objects with their minds, while others could heal the sick and wounded with a single touch. Neso realized that these individuals were not merely changed, but had been chosen for a greater purpose. They were the key to unlocking the secrets of the creators, to preparing humanity for the challenges that lay ahead. But as Neso delved deeper into the mystery, he discovered that he was not the only one seeking the truth. A hidden Zarantine faction known as the Vanguard had been working in the shadows to suppress the truth about humanity's role in the galaxy. They believed that humans were a threat to the established order, a species that needed to be controlled or eliminated. Neso narrowly escaped an assassination attempt by Vanguard agents, their weapons leaving scorch marks on the walls of his ship. He realized that his mission had become more dangerous than he ever imagined, that he was now a target for those who sought to keep the truth hidden. With time running out, and the Creator's return looming on the horizon, Neso knew that he had to act quickly. He had to navigate a treacherous web of secrets and lies to uncover the true nature of the message in human DNA and the destiny that awaited both humans and Zarantine alike. As Neso plotted his next move, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the Vanguard was closing in on him with every passing moment. He knew that he had to stay one step ahead, to gather his allies and prepare for the battles to come. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and Neso... Jacob's eyes fluttered open, his mind a swirling vortex of fragmented visions and a profound sense of purpose. The stasis pod hissed as it opened, the cool air of the laboratory washing over his skin. He sat up slowly, his muscles aching from the long journey back to Earth. The laboratory was a hive of activity, with scientists and technicians rushing about, their voices hushed and urgent. Jacob paid them no mind, his thoughts consumed by the overwhelming sense of destiny that had taken hold of him. He rose from the stasis pod, his movements slow and deliberate. The scientists tried to stop him, urging him to rest, to undergo further tests, but Jacob pushed past them, driven by an irresistible force. He stepped out into the bright sunlight, his eyes squinting against the glare. The world seemed different somehow, as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes. He saw the truth of things now, the hidden patterns that wove through the fabric of reality. Jacob walked for days, following an invisible thread that tugged at his soul. He passed through crowded cities and desolate wastelands, his mind focused on a single destination, an ancient temple hidden deep within the Amazon rainforest. The jungle was a living, breathing entity, a primordial force that seemed to resist his every step. The air was thick and heavy, the heat oppressive. Jacob pushed on, driven by the visions that haunted his dreams. He saw a great cataclysm that threatened to engulf the galaxy, a war that would reshape the very fabric of the universe. He saw vast armies clashing on distant worlds, and at the center of it all, a shadowy figure pulling the strings, manipulating events from behind the scenes. After days of trekking through the dense undergrowth, Jacob finally reached the temple. It was a massive structure of stone and metal, its surface covered in intricate carvings and glyphs that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. As he approached the entrance, Jacob was confronted by a group of figures, each bearing the mark of the awakening. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, their bodies thrumming with a power that Jacob could feel in his bones. Among them was a woman with piercing green eyes and a shock of red hair. She radiated an aura of strength and purpose, and Jacob knew instinctively that she was the leader of this group. "Welcome, Jacob," she said, her voice echoing in his mind. "I am Arya, and we have been waiting for you." Jacob nodded, his heart racing with anticipation. "I know," he said. "I have seen it in my dreams." Together they entered the temple, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous halls. The walls were covered in ancient writings and symbols, each one telling a piece of the story of humanity's creation and the role of the mysterious creators. As Jacob ran his fingers over the carvings, he felt a surge of energy coursing through his body. The visions came faster now, more vivid and intense than ever before. He saw the creators, ancient beings of unimaginable power, seeding the galaxy with life and watching over their creations from afar. He saw the awakening, a call to arms for humanity to take their rightful place among the stars. And he saw the war, a conflict that would reshape the very fabric of the universe. Jacob knew that he and the other transformed humans had a role to play in this conflict, a destiny that had been written in the stars since the dawn of time. As he delved deeper into the temple's secrets, Jacob felt a growing sense of urgency. The cataclysm was coming, and humanity needed to be ready. They needed to unite, to harness the power that had been bestowed upon them by the creators. The journey ahead would be long and perilous, but Jacob knew that he could not turn back now. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and he would do whatever it took to ensure that humanity survived and thrived in the face of the coming darkness. The other transformed humans gathered around him, their eyes shining with a shared sense of purpose. They knew that they were no longer just individuals, but part of something greater, a cosmic tapestry that had been woven since the beginning of time. As they stood together in the heart of the temple, Jacob felt a sense of unity and strength that he had never known before. They were the chosen ones, the guardians of humanity's future, and they would not rest until their mission was complete. As Jacob and the others continued to explore the ancient temple, their minds reeling with the implications of their newfound knowledge, Neso found himself drawn to a remote, desolate moon on the fringes of Zarantine space. The journey was long and arduous, his small ship navigating through treacherous asteroid fields and past the gravitational pull of dying stars. When he finally landed on the barren surface, Neso felt a sense of unease wash over him. The moon was lifeless, its landscape a bleak expanse of grey dust and jagged rocks. But something beneath the surface called to him, an ancient presence that tugged at the edges of his consciousness. Neso spent hours searching, his reptilian eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the facility he sought. Just as he was about to give up, A glint of metal caught his eye. He approached cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. There, hidden beneath a layer of dust and debris, was the entrance to an ancient facility. Nesso's claws trembled as he worked to pry open the door, the metal groaning under the strain of centuries of disuse. As he stepped inside, Nesso's eyes widened in wonder. The facility was vast, its walls lined with towering shelves filled with countless data crystals and ancient tomes. He had stumbled upon a repository of knowledge, a library containing the history of civilizations long forgotten. Neso worked tirelessly, poring over the archives, his mind racing with each new discovery. He learned of the creators, not a single race, but a collective of advanced beings from across the universe, united in their quest to preserve life and knowledge in the face of an impending cosmic catastrophe. And then he found it, the true purpose of the message hidden in human DNA. It was a failsafe, a means to ensure that humanity, with its unique potential and resilience, would be ready to take up the mantle of the creators and continue their work. But as Neso delved deeper, he uncovered a chilling truth. The Vanguard was not just a Zarantine faction, but an intergalactic cabal made up of various species who feared the rise of humanity and sought to prevent the awakening at all costs. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the facility. Neso spun around, his heart leaping into his throat. Standing before him was a group of Vanguard operatives, their weapons trained on his chest. At their head was a ruthless Zarantine named Zol, his eyes glinting with malice. "You've meddled in affairs beyond your understanding, Neso," he hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. "The Vanguard cannot allow the awakening to proceed." Neso's mind raced, desperately searching for a way out. He was outnumbered and outgunned with no chance of escape, but just as all seemed lost, a figure emerged from the shadows behind the Vanguard agents. It was a human, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, his voice echoing with ancient power. He moved with blinding speed, dispatching the Vanguard operatives with ease, his abilities far beyond those of any ordinary human. As the last of the agents fell, the newcomer turned to Neso, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I am Malik," he said, his voice resonating through the facility. "I was among the first to awaken, decades ago. I've spent years mastering my abilities, waiting for this moment." Neso stared at Malik in awe, his mind reeling with the implications of this new ally. But Malik's expression grew serious as he stepped closer to Neso. "The Vanguard's influence is spreading," he warned, his glowing eyes intense. "They will stop at nothing to prevent the awakening and maintain their grip on power. We must gather the remaining transformed humans and prepare for the final confrontation that will determine the fate of the galaxy." Neso nodded, a sense of purpose settling over him. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but with Malik at his side, he felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they would race against time to unravel the secrets of the creators and ensure that humanity was ready to embrace its destiny. The temple shuddered as the Vanguard's assault tore through its ancient walls, chunks of stone raining down on the transformed humans as they scrambled for cover. Shouts of fear and pain echoed through the chambers as energy beams seared the air, the acrid scent of ozone and scorched flesh filling their nostrils. Jacob ducked behind a crumbling pillar, his heart pounding in his chest. He locked eyes with Arya across the room, her face streaked with sweat and grime. "We have to do something," he called out over the din of battle. "We can't let them win." Arya nodded, her jaw tight with determination. She turned to the others, her eyes blazing with an inner fire. "We may not agree on what to do next, but right now we have to stand together. We have to fight." Malik, crouched behind a toppled statue, grinned fiercely. "I thought you'd never ask." He turned to Jacob, his eyes glinting with a wild light. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Jacob nodded, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "The command ship. We take out their leadership. We end this here and now." As the others fought to hold back the Vanguard forces, Jacob and Malik slipped away, their enhanced speed and strength carrying them through the chaos unscathed. They burst from the temple, rocketing into the sky towards the looming bulk of the Vanguard's command ship. The ship's defenses fired upon them, but Jacob and Malik wove through the barrage of energy beams with preternatural grace, their bodies little more than blurs of motion. They tore through the hull of the ship like a hot knife through butter, alarms blaring as they raced through the corridors towards the bridge. As they burst onto the command deck, they found themselves face to face with a figure that made their blood run cold. The Overseer, a being of pure darkness, stood before them, his form shifting and writhing like a living shadow. "You dare to challenge me?" the Overseer hissed, his voice a sibilant whisper that echoed in their minds. "I, who have seen the birth and death of stars, who have walked the paths between worlds." Jacob and Malik exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. They knew they were outmatched, that even their enhanced abilities were no match for the Overseer's ancient power. But they also knew that they had no choice. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and they were the only ones who could tip the scales. As the Overseer lunged at them, his form uncoiling like a serpent, Jacob and Malik met him head-on, their bodies blazing with the power of the Creators. The command deck shook with the force of their battle, consoles shattering and bulkheads buckling under the onslaught of their titanic struggle. But even as they fought with every ounce of their strength, Jacob and Malik knew it wasn't enough. The Overseer's power was too great, his mastery over the forces of the universe too complete. In a moment of desperation, Jacob reached out with his mind, his consciousness stretching across the vastness of space to touch the minds of Arya, Neso, and the others. "We need your help," he pleaded, his thoughts tinged with urgency. "We can't do this alone." Back in the temple, Arya gasped as Jacob's words echoed in her mind. She turned to the others, her eyes wide with understanding. "They need us," she said simply. "We have to help them." Without hesitation, the transformed humans gathered around the conduit orb, their hands joined in a circle of unity. They closed their eyes, reaching out with their minds and hearts to join their strength with Jacob and Malik's. On the command ship, Jacob and Malik felt a surge of power unlike anything they had ever experienced. It flowed through them like a river of molten fire, filling them with a strength and clarity of purpose that took their breath away. With a final devastating blow, they struck down the Overseer, his form shattering into a million fragments of shadow. The command ship buckled and heaved, explosions tearing through its hull as it began to break apart. Jacob and Malik raced through the disintegrating ship, their bodies wreathed in the energy of the Creators. They burst from the hull, just as the ship exploded behind them, a blossom of fire and debris that lit up the sky like a second sun. As they descended back to the planet's surface, Jacob and Malik could feel the toll their victory had taken. The power that had sustained them was fading, the strain of channeling such immense energies, leaving them weak and drained. In the temple, several of the transformed humans lay unmoving, their bodies broken by the effort of lending their strength to the battle. Arya knelt beside them, her eyes brimming with tears as she felt the life ebbing from their shattered frames. Jacob and Malik landed heavily, their legs giving out beneath them as they collapsed to the ground. Neso rushed to their side, his reptilian face etched with concern. "It's over," Jacob whispered, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "We won." But even as the words left his lips, he knew that their victory was only the beginning. The Vanguard had been defeated, but the true fight for the future of the galaxy was just beginning. As they gathered their dead and tended to their wounded, Jacob, Arya, Neso, and Malik exchanged a look of grim determination. They knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, that they would face challenges and dangers beyond anything they had ever imagined. In the eerie stillness of the ruined temple, the transformed humans gathered around the fallen forms of their comrades, their hearts heavy with grief and uncertainty. The victory over the Vanguard had come at a terrible cost, the lives of their friends and allies sacrificed in the heat of battle. Jacob stood apart from the others, his glowing eyes fixed on the conduit orb that pulsed with an otherworldly light. The power that coursed through his veins was intoxicating, but it was also a burden, a constant reminder of the responsibility that now rested on their shoulders. "What do we do now?" Malik asked, his voice rough with exhaustion and sorrow. "The Vanguard may be defeated, but the threat they represented is far from over." Arya, her face streaked with dirt and blood, stepped forward, her expression grim. "I've seen something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "a vision granted to me by the Creators." Arya took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she spoke. The cosmic catastrophe that the Creators sought to prevent, it's not a distant threat. It's happening now, all around us. The very fabric of the universe is unraveling, and if we don't act, everything we've fought for will be lost. A stunned silence fell over the group, the weight of Arya's words settling like a lead weight in their chests. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine, the realization of the true scope of their destiny hitting him like a physical blow. "What can we do?" he asked, his voice barely more than a hoarse whisper. Arya met his gaze, her eyes shining with a fierce determination. "We have to embrace our destiny," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "We have to merge with the Creators, become one with their power and knowledge. It's the only way to save the universe from annihilation." Nesso and Malik exchanged a glance, the weight of the decision before them etched in the lines of their faces. They knew that the choice they faced was not an easy one, but they also knew that they had come too far to turn back now. "Then let's do it," Malik said, his voice filled with a grim resolve. "Let's become one with the Creators and finish what we started." One by one, the transformed humans stepped forward, their faces set with a determination that belied the fear and uncertainty that gripped their hearts. As they approached the conduit orb, they could feel the power emanating from it, a tangible force that seemed to call out to them, urging them to take the final step. As they merged with the orb, their individual essences were subsumed into the collective consciousness of the Creators, their memories and experiences adding to the vast tapestry of knowledge that stretched across the cosmos. They could feel their minds expanding, their senses heightened to a level they had never before experienced. Jacob was the last to step forward, his heart pounding in his chest as he approached the glowing sphere. He could feel the weight of his humanity slipping away, the essence of who he was being slowly consumed by the power of the Creators. But even as he felt the last vestiges of his individuality fading away, Jacob knew that he had made the right choice. He had sacrificed everything to protect the universe, to ensure that the legacy of the Creators would live on, even in the face of unimaginable darkness. As he touched the orb, Jacob felt his consciousness expand, merging with the others in a blinding flash of light. In that moment, he saw the entirety of the Creator's plan laid out before him, a vast and intricate web of cause and effect stretching across the eons. And as the universe around them began to change, the unraveling of reality slowing and then stopping, as the cosmic catastrophe was averted by their sacrifice, Jacob knew that their legacy would endure. Though they were gone, their choices and actions would forever mark the universe, a testament to the power and potential of the human spirit. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.